Okay, welcome back, fail-safe investors. Welcome to another edition of Battle of the Brands. And in today's edition, we're going to look into Advanced Micro Devices, ticker symbol AMD. If you've never heard about them, they're a semiconductor company and probably the best company I can find that is competing against Intel. So stay tuned. This will be a video you'll love, and let's go. Let's go. Okay, so welcome to another edition of Battle of the Brands. So today we're going to look at AMD, and if you're wondering about my new hairstyle, I just got one thing to say. It is what it is. I'm just trying something new, so take it in for a second. All right, now back to business. So AMD Advanced Micro Devices is a company that I know personally because I've owned this stock at one point in my life. Now, I've owned AMD back in 2015, 2016, and when I owned AMD, it was selling around $13 a share. And with the amount that I've had, if I would have just held on to that stock and rode out all the storms and just held on to it, my shares would have been worth about $53 a share right now, and I would have had at least about $5,000 worth of profit. Pretty much, to make it simple. So when I bought AMD, this was around the time where I didn't really know about like how to find companies or anything. I don't even remember how I came across AMD. I just remember I came across AMD. This was around right after they got their new CEO, Lisa Su, which she was like garnishing a lot of attention and a lot of people loved her. She was revolutionary and she really was good for the company. I just didn't see the future in the company. And I was holding on to them. I held on to the shares for like a year and a half, and I was just too impatient, I'm gonna be honest, and I just ended up selling them all. I don't think I took that much of a loss. I think I took like $100 loss total. It wasn't that much. I didn't have that much. I think about $400 or $500, and it $100 loss. It wasn't that bad in my terms, but that's just my history with AMD. But in today's video, we're gonna do an actual analysis of AMD or Advanced Micro Devices and see if it's worth to buy or hold, or if you should sell it if you already own the shares. We're pretty much gonna go into this video like I do all of my other videos, where I give you like the basic metrics for this company or basic evaluations, and then I give you pretty much the segments and how this company generates revenue, and then I give you like the financial statements and all that. So AMD, selling around $53 a share currently, has a market cap of around $65 billion, has an earnings per share of around 0.43 cents, yes, just 43 cents, and a price to earnings of 128. Sorry, they have a price to earnings of 129. I'm so sorry. And that is really high. They do not pay a dividend. This would be considered a growth company because they are still trying to grow, even though they've been around for a very long time. But this is the first time in a long time that they actually have been onto something, to say the least. Even though this company is selling for around $53, $54 a share right now, that is its all-time high. So that's the highest it's been in the history of its stock market career. AMD have had a couple spikes in the past. Now I'm going to tell you what's the difference between this spike and the previous spikes in a moment. So AMD shot from like $10 to $12 a share back in like 1999 to 2000 to like 40 something dollars a share, just out of nowhere. Now that, if you were in the stock market around that time, that was around the tech bubble. So back in like 1999 and the early 2000s, investors were investing in anything with a .com behind it because it was literally like that was on the brink of everything technological, and investors thought that was where everything was going or headed in the future. So that's what caused the tech bubble, and a lot of companies went under because of that, because it was pretty much a huge pump and dump for the stock market as a whole. Like a lot of investors came in, invested in a lot of these tech companies. Some of them turned out to be good, some of them turned out to not be so good. and pretty much it was a bubble. Like it burst in around like 2000, 2001, stock market goes down. And if you look at AMD chart, you can see it on the chart, it goes up, then it goes right back down. So then back in 2006, there was another spike in AMD. It pretty much did the same thing, bounced from around like 10 to $1, and then went up into the 40s again, and then it pretty much went down again. Now, the difference between those spikes and this spike in AMD is that back in 2014, AMD hired a new CEO called Lisa Su, and Lisa Su pretty much changed the entire company. So when Lisa Su came on as the CEO of AMD, she introduced what is like pretty much its breadwinner right now, the Ryzen chip. And so the Ryzen chip is the chip that pretty much changed everything for AMD. So without getting into like the specifics about semiconductors and all that, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't like go out and try to like learn all of this stuff and how to understand coding and processes and all that stuff. And it's not that because I didn't have the time, I just didn't learn all these things about code and all that. So I talked to a good friend of mine, pretty much like a brother of mine, about like AMD chips and all that stuff because he's like into that. So he knew more about it than me. And pretty much to break it down in like simplest terms, you have like CPUs and GPUs and like you have graphics cards and all that stuff. And for the longest, Intel was beating AMD on a lot of things, like on a lot of benchmarks and like how do they test these chips. Intel was winning because each core, if I'm saying it correctly, was more efficient than each AMD core. So AMD was like, we're gonna just use more cores. And until the Ryzen chip, Intel was beating AMD. But since AMD introduced the Ryzen chip back in like 2000 and I want to say 17. So since AMD introduced the Ryzen chip back in like 2017, it's just been pretty much beating Intel. And then AMD introduced the Ryzen 3rd generation back in July of 2019. And then that's when things just changed for the better because they introduced a brand new chip that was faster and it was still at the same price point as the previous chip. And so it was already better than Intel, and then they introduced a new chip that's even more faster, and it's still at the same price point. And then back in October 2019, AMD stock just shoots up. It's like $50-some a share. It just goes straight to the moon after that. And it's justified in this case because they actually have a product that is not only competing, but is winning. And they're able to do it at a valuable price point. So that is definitely good for AMD and for any company. And that's what you want to look at in these companies. Like, what is the bottom line? Like, what products are these companies introducing that is making these companies profitable, that is translating into the share price? So, in my opinion, I will say that AMD is, even at the price point it's selling at right now, a buy. And as before we get into the financial statements and all that stuff, I'm going to say, in my opinion, AMD is a buy, and hopefully you'll see it within the financial statements. But like I said, I don't want to get too much into detail on this video about like AMD versus Intel right now because I'm going to have a video coming soon where I literally put these two head to head and see which one will be the winner. But I'm just giving you my opinion on AMD and why the stock is doing so well right now. But enough of that. That's pretty much to make it simple. I don't want to get in too much detail about AMD and go on a rant or anything like that. So let's just look into the financial statements. So like always, we're going to start off with the balance sheet, then go into the income statement, and then the cash flow statement. So in 2019, AMD brought in a revenue of $6.7 billion. For a company of this size, that's actually not pretty bad, especially when you look at the balance sheet where they had like $1.5 billion in cash on hand and about $4.5 billion in current assets versus $2.3 billion in current liabilities. And then when we factor in that AMD has total assets of $6 billion minus $3.2 billion for total liabilities, that's pretty good for any balance sheet because it's almost double of the liabilities. Now, moving on to the income statement, AMD, like I mentioned, brought in $6.7 billion and has a net income of $341 million. Now that's not that much money, but when you look at the capital expenditures of $217 million and you're left with $124 million in free cash flow, that's pretty good for any company. They have free cash flow, and if they can continue on the path that they're on of pretty much beating out their competition, which is Intel at this point, on price point and pretty much value, and you have a lot of people switch from Intel to AMD, like I've been told, it's going to start to reflect on a balance sheet. So you want something like that in any company that you're going to buy or look into, or any stock in general. So like I mentioned in the middle of this video, I would definitely recommend that AMD is a buy if you don't already own AMD. Now, what type of returns could you get on AMD? Only time will tell. Now, if you look at a lot of analysts and you look at some pivot charts, a lot of analysts have set AMD price target at around like 63. Some higher than that, some lower, but 63 is a pretty solid number. It's a realistic number. It's a number that you can actually see this company going to, but it could go up higher, it could double. Anything is possible in the tech field, so we don't know, and we just gotta wait and see. So hit the thumbs up if you like this video. If you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. Normally I don't wear my hair like this, I promise, if you are new to the channel, but we don't know what the future holds. I don't even know what the future holds. Anything is possible. And if you are going to invest in AMD, make sure you do your homework. I am not a financial advisor. This is just pretty much my take on this company. And good luck. Till the next video, let's get it, let's do it.